All right, welcome to the the power of good lead qualifications. This is the first in a series, 8-week series of webinars, and we'll talk about those webinars and the foundation webinar series all together in just a little bit. Let me introduce myself first, because if I don't, I skip it and at the end, no one knows who I am. So my name is Andrea Ayers. I work for SugarCRM. I've been with SugarCRM for 16 years, going on 17 now. I'm in Sugar U, which is the training department inside of Sugar. Sometimes you see Sugar University, sometimes it's Sugar U. So it depends on, where you're at in conversations with people, what they call it. I am an employee of Sugar CRM. I'm not a contractor or anything like that. I work out of my home in Austin, Texas. So you will hear a little bit of an accent every once in a while, especially if I say we're fixing to get to that. You can contact me or anyone on the team at university@sugarcrm.com. And we do have a X feed or Twitter feed name. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, you're more than welcome to do that also. So um, we're going to start off with just talking about this series in general, and then we're going to dive into lead qualification specifically. So this specific webinar series is, first of all, for sugar sales folks, and it's supposed to connect your team to some core principles while you're using Sugar Cell. It focuses on highlights on some fundamental practices, and that's why we're starting with leads. That's the basis of what we're going to build everything else on in the next 8 weeks. So starting with qualifications, automation, we're going to talk about dashboards, mobile usage, and how you and your users can master that in Sugar. Okay, so these recordings can be given to your users also. It isn't specifically just for you, it could be for your entire team. So that's what the audience is. It says leadership, but anybody you want to include in this webinar, it's free series. Feel free to forward the information to them also. So it's going to be short in that I'm only going to have an hour with you. So we have a lot to cover within an hour for each session. So I'm going to give you kind of big picture items. Then you're going to get a follow-up afterwards and follow-up email from me right afterwards that's going to have like the slides and the recording and any of the handouts that we're going to go through or anything like that in addition. Then you're going to get an email tomorrow that's going to have follow-up videos with it. So it's more of demos of the product, see how this works, see how you can create this, see how you can add this to your dashboard, etc. Okay, and I'm going to point those out as we go through the material, what we'll be covering and then what will be coming afterwards. So I'm hoping that this is a practical, no fluff conversation. So I'm going to be presenting to you my materials, but I do have my chat open. So I want you to be able to communicate with me if you have any questions as we go along. Okay. So totally possible that I'm going to try very hard not to get on any budding trails going down some separate what if kind of communication. So we're going to try to stay on focus. So the outcome that I want is that you are equipped to run a tighter, more predictable sales operation, especially when we're starting with leads. We're going to see some of that predictable sales operation starting from the very beginning. And you'll make better data-driven decisions based on what actually is in Sugar. Okay. So this is the series. So we're going to start with today with lead qualification. Next week, same day. There's a different link though. You have to actually register. I'm going to give you those links in just a second. It's going to be opportunity management. And here are just some resources. I'm going to just pop these in the chat for everybody. I like to give people the resources. Of course, I don't think any of those links came across. Nope. Okay, just one second. The resources ahead of time instead of at the end, and you're cramming to get all of that done. Sometimes that is a lot. So let me go over here. See if this works. Okay, no, it doesn't. All right, so I'm going to send you the links. For some reason, the links aren't working in Zoom. That's fine. So next week is going to be opportunity management. Following that, we're going to talk about activities. That's calls, meetings, notes, tasks, emails, messages. All that would be covered the first week that most of us are going to be back in January. Then we'll go through mobile, not only what an admin can do in mobile, but also how your users can use it efficiently. And not only if you're on a phone, but if you're on a tablet, what version would you use in each one of those versions of Sugar? Then we're going to talk about automation, specifically workflows, which is Sugar BPM. Now, that is a lot to cover in an hour. So we're going to cover high level, then you're going to get follow-up information the next days to kind of reinforce what we talked about within the webinar. Then we're going to talk about sales mastery, so driving growth within Sugar. Then seeing success. So that's with using actionable dashboards within Sugar. You're going to see a dashboard today that I've covered, and also in a follow-up email tomorrow of setting up a dashboard specifically for leads. But we're going to talk about just creating dashboards in general. How do you share them? How do you give other people access, et cetera, to particular dashboards? And then finally, we're going to talk about reports. Now, it's its own entity here, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek into some of these sessions. They're all going to probably sprinkle in reports throughout them, but we're going to concentrate on creating reports, mastering them in the last session, right? We want all the data to be good first before we create a report that's going to show us some of the information, okay? So in the upcoming email that you're going to be getting to me right after this session, I'll give you the links for the next two to register for the next two sessions. So every session I present, I will give you the next two registration links. Okay. All right. And before we get into the poll real quick, I'm going to pop into chat a handout. So as we go through, um, hold on. As we go through the slides, this is going to be kind of your job aid, if you want to call it that, for everything that we covered. So it's the highlights, right? It's the meat of the presentation. And it's just a fill in the blank. If you want to use it, you can. If you don't, that's fine too. I'll be sending the answers to this after class with the email. Okay. So let me make sure that all went through. So go ahead and register for all the sessions. If you want to, even if you can't attend them, I send the recording and all the additional information to everybody that registers, not just the ones that attend. So good question. I will send it to everybody. I would definitely register for everything you want to hear about. Okay. Good question. Okay, so I'd like you to use your chat here, okay? Get your fingers ready. I want you to type into chat, what are some common pain points when you're dealing with lead qualification? What are your issues that your organization has, okay? So I'll get you started. Here's a big one. Leads fall through the cracks sometimes, and they don't get followed up on in a timely manner. Sometimes ownership is unclear about who's supposed to do what and when, and the alerts aren't timely, and that's why they're falling through the cracks. What are some other things that you have experienced when you're dealing with lead qualification? Can you add those into chat for me? One or two people are responsible for assigning leads, and it causes bottlenecks, delays in response. That's a great one. Delays are a huge issue. Lead volume is low. Okay, that's a good one too, right? I've got another one for inconsistent follow-up cadence. That's very specific, and I totally agree with that one too. No visibility into lead statuses. We lose the momentum. That's a good one too. Sometimes people get very engaged at the very beginning, and then it kind of dwindles out, right? During conversion, checking if the account already exists in the CRM. Oh, that's a good one too. Okay. So when we talk about conversion, which is the end of qualification, right? You qualify them, then you want to convert them into an account, a contact, and an opportunity so you can continue tracking that sales deal. I agree, right? You get duplicates and then your data's messed up, right? You got two accounts rather than two contacts. That always a good idea to search first. That's a good issue. Marketing and sales disagree. Wow. That's a huge issue, right? Sometimes in some organizations, lead qualification happens in marketing. Sometimes it happens in sales. So which one does it need to happen in? And when does that transition happen? Okay. All good issues. So we're going to talk about lots of that within today's session. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk about why lead qualifications matter, what are good leads, what do they look like, and there's two parts to that. We'll discuss what those are. That's supposed to be bringing it to life, sorry. Yeah, bringing it to life in sugar. So what does that look like in sugar? Operationalizing. That's just a new word for me, operationalizing success. So how do you make that happen? And then we're going to do a recap and then some key takeaways where I want you to try or think about afterwards. And then we'll have a Q&A. Now, that doesn't mean you can't ask questions as we go along. I'm perfectly fine with looking over at chat. If it has to do with what we're talking about, I'll answer it. But if you have some like general questions, go ahead and write them out or type them somewhere so you can just copy and paste them into chat. That's fine. Okay. I just want to give you a heads up. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So let's jump into it. The first section is why is lead qualification matters. Now, I'm hoping because all of you are attending, you think it's important, right? Um, and some organizations, this is where where they fail in sales, is they have a lot of confusion around lead qualification. So let's talk about some best practices, some overall things that need to be happening, some decisions that need to be made. This is going to be the foundation of a healthy pipeline. So if you don't start well here, sometimes your pipeline looks a little messy and it's hard to do some predictions on forecasting. So I know you've all heard of the adage garbage in, garbage out principle. Why bad data equals bad deals, right? If the data is not in the system, then how do you expect to have good deals that go through? So just a reminder for most of you and most of us, I think that poor data doesn't just look cluttered in the system and mess up reports and things like that. It also affects performance and the trust with our customers because we're going to be re-saying some things to them that they don't need to say, etc. So first of all, we're going to have inaccurate and outdated data that misleads your team, right? It misleads it because you're going to be running reports, you're going to be running filters within leads, and data is going to look odd, right? Or you're like, that's not what it's supposed to be, or that field isn't filled in correctly. So, bad data breaks automation. So if a field is supposed to have a certain value, it's going to trigger some workflow and no one fills in that field. Okay, well, then no automation is going to be kicked off from it, right? Customer experience suffers. I think we all can come up with a customer service story of your own to another company and how they should have known something has happened or some meeting has happened or call or something on their particular lead that we're not putting in the system. Therefore, customers are suffering because of it. And this is going to equal strategic impact. So bad data equals bad decisions. So the bottom line is that clean, consistent data is not just a back office chore. It's not your admin's job or your manager's job. It's the job of the users that are using that particular record, right? So it's foundational to credibility, efficiency, and revenue growth. By the way, that's some answers on your handout, okay? Sugar values lie in making it easier to capture, automate, and act on high quality data. So, and how can you tell if a lead is a high value customer or not if you don't put that information into the system? Good data doesn't just inform better decision, it creates better deals. And that's what we eventually obviously want to get to, right? So, some common pitfalls. Now, y'all talked about a lot of them. I kind of grouped them all into three main areas. Okay. The first one is inconsistent criteria. So, teams with great lead flow can struggle if the foundation isn't clear and consistent. So, inconsistent criteria, this is where different reps or regions use different standards on what makes a lead, and I'm going to use air quotes here, qualified, right? Some part of the team think it means this. Some people think it means something different. Sometimes in marketing, it means something, obviously. When they're going to hand it over to sales, that's going to be different too, but we need a consistent standard definition. Some focused on budget or authority, others focus on prioritizing time and interest level in purchasing something. Also, the second one is incomplete data capture. So key qualification details like pain points and buying rules or decision timelines aren't always entered into the system, as you well know, right? So one thing, and we'll talk about this later also, is make fields required that need to be added in order for a lead to be created. Okay. If that field is going to trigger something in the workflow, like a lead score, right? Just as an example, then make it a required field. Okay. We want to get our data completion rate, if you want to think of it that way, to 100%, right? We want our leads to be as solid as they can be. So when the rep actually starts working on it, they'll know what to do. And the last one kind of goes a little bit with inconsistent criteria, but a lack of shared definitions of a qualified lead, right? I think that is probably the biggest one that I have heard from customers or sales teams because there's inconsistency. And I know that sounds like an easy thing about saying, get these nailed down, right? You do that, the end. It's not that easy. I know it's not. You're working with several different teams and not all of them have the same goals, right? So try to come to the table with what you think that qualification means. Start specifically just on the sales team. We have decided that lead qualification means that they say, let me see a demo. Okay, qualified. We're going to move it on to an opportunity. Or send me a product packet with all of your information in it. Fine. So whatever that is, make sure you have a shared definition. Okay, when two reps have different definitions of lead qualification, this leads to consistent forecasting. So there's no way that you're going to be able to run a report or look at the forecasting module with any intelligence because you're running off of two different definitions. So let's talk about then what does good look like? So this is talking about framework and best practices. So I'm going to ask a question in a minute. So I just want to, at a high level, we're going to talk about some sales lead qualification framework. So it just depends on what your organization decides to do. If y'all haven't made that decision or you have a new sales team that you need to have those discussions with, there's lots of options that are out there. And SugarCRM, we are not telling you these are the ones you need to use. Choose one, right? Whether it is BANT, and I don't know if you say BANT or if you say BANT, budget authority needs and timelines. This is a simple but classic method with a very straightforward deal process. CHAMP, which focuses mainly on customer pain points, so challenge authority money prioritization. MEDDIC, metrics, economic buyers, decision criteria, decision processing, identify pain, and champion. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest because they're not as, um, uh, I guess, popular with sales team, that's the right word to use. But it depends on the type of sales cycle that you're doing. So I just want to get an idea out here. Okay, so tell me in chat if you know which qualification framework does your sales team use, right? And also, I'd like to know if you use more than one. Different teams use different ones. I would suspect that that may be true. Okay, so I got a BANT, BANT. Anything else? Medic, I think is how you say, or Medi. Yes. Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. We don't use any qualification framework. All right, good to know. Anybody else? Okay. So I've gotten a few that we don't use a qualification framework. Okay. And that could be based on how you're using sugar too, right? You could be using sugar where you don't use leads and opportunities. And if that's true, then leads may not be important to you. If you're using leads for um, anything besides getting revenue, then I could see why you wouldn't use that too. And some folks do. Totally, you can use sugar for that too. Oh, there's another one. Doesn't use it. That's fine. Okay. So if you don't, that's fine. I just was wanting to know what you out there people were using. So quite a few of the first three. I don't have anybody for these other ones. And then there's a one additional one that we don't use any. That's fine too. Okay. So let's talk about lead qualification specifically. So this is best practice, right? So we want to align between marketing and sales. So the marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead. We need to make some better decisions about what that means because it's foundational to some consistent lead quality. Your conversions rates will be better, and you'll have a better predictable um, growth or pipeline. The key is to establish a shared definition. I know I've said this a time, and you're going to hear it a few more times too. You want to align your criteria, right? So some examples of what I mean by this is in marketing, it would be something like a completed demo request plus fits your ideal customer profile criteria, ICP. In sales, it may be that they're contracted, they're confirmed budget, and their confirmed timeline meets whatever ours are for your particular organization. Okay, so lead qualification definitions. Next is defining what that ideal customer profile is. Okay, every organization has someone or some group of individuals that they are going to market to and sell to. So we need to have a great idea of what that is, right? What are their firmographic, which is like demographics, but for the organization, technographics and behavior attributes that are for our ideal customer. And we're going to use Sugar to consistently validate and redefine that profile because it could change, right? This year it may be one thing, and next year we're going to add two more qualifications to that because we need to narrow down specifically into this particular niche. Okay. We want to ensure marketing targets the right audience, obviously, right? We don't want just people, if our audience is healthcare, we don't want them going into the education area because that's not where we're focusing our sales because we want to pursue the right opportunities. Next, lead scoring. Just a quick raise your hand. How many of y'all use lead scoring in your organization? Raise your hand if you use lead scoring. Even if you don't personally, but you know your organizations, just click it once so it raises just so I can see. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 more seconds here. Okay, not a lot of you. Okay, so let's talk about that. So we have a field inside of leads called lead scoring. Now, it is a text field. So in my personal opinion, that's not super helpful when it comes to lead scoring. But what I like about lead scoring is that you can make it either a calculated field, based on certain criteria, this is the score of this particular customer, or it can be populated from a workflow, right? Based on these criteria, populate this value in this field. Great, right? So lead scoring is going to give you, maybe as the rep, a better idea of what areas you need to focus on, right, with them. But it also gives you a good idea of how close that particular customer may be to converting, right? We don't want our customers to fall through the cracks. So if we give them good enough scores, they will follow through the next cycle of the sales deal, right? So we want to regularly review that threshold together. What scores truly signal, right? If it's this high, if it's 40, then give it, we need to do these things next. If it's 80, we're getting close to conversion, etc. Right? When is it going to be ready to either be handoff to sales? When is it going to be ready to convert? Okay. And we'll give some more examples of lead scoring model in a little bit. So next off is handoff and feedback loop. Okay. I think a lot of people, this is where it falls, right? Okay. Someone said in chat that they score on activities. That's a good one, right? How many calls, how many meetings, how many tasks, how many messages did you have with that particular customer? That's a great way to do lead scoring too, right? But you need to do it, however that's going to be calculated. So let's say that marketing has the lead and they qualify the lead and they're handing it off to you. What does that look like? What is the mechanism that's going to mark that it's now sales, right? Is it that it has a certain status? Is it that it's ready, etc., right? So when we create a feedback mechanism, sales marks a disposition, right? It's qualified, not ready, disqualified, and marketing is going to redefine that particular market. For, let's say it's a disqualified, we need to let marketing know, hey, there are a lot of leads we're getting here that are not in our ideal customer profile, and so they're not really getting qualified. So we need to maybe restructure the way that we're marketing to get better uh, leads coming over, something like that, right? You have to have a feedback to the two organizations. They are not separate silos, right? They work as a team together. This also reinforces accountability on both sides, not just sales, but also in marketing, right? We want to make sure we're getting the good leads that are coming in and that sales is qualifying them if that's the way your organization does it, and it moves forward down the pipeline. We also need to have shared KPIs and success matrix. So we're going to see some reports here in a little bit that talk about how you can see all that information in one place so that you can have some specific matrix to see that information. So a single source of truth, which should be the CRM, to ensure collaboration, not just between marketing and sales, but within the sales organization themselves, and not competition, right? Now, I know competition is involved within sales, but not for this specific situation. We want everybody to succeed, right? I'm not even in sales, and I really am a cheerleader for sales because that's how an organization stays in business, right? So I want them to succeed, whatever that type of information may be. So we need to track some of those outcomes like conversion rate and pipeline contributions and revenue attributions. And those are going to come out in some of the reports that we talk about in a little bit. So why shared definitions are critical is it prevents garbage in and garbage out. It strengthens forecast accuracy and it builds organizational trust. Okay. The groups that are involved. Okay, so let's talk about lead scoring. Now, this may be done differently. Like some of you have mentioned already, you have it based on activities. Some of you, you need to have a methodology, whatever it is, right? It's based on how you're going to rank your prospects or leads, right? Whatever that methodology is, to have some kind of perceived value, right? Whatever that value is, 5 star, whatever, however you score 1 to 100, whatever that is, to represent for your organization. So the score itself is going to determine which lead sales partners, if you have partners, and teleprospecting leads teams should prioritize to engage. Ones with the higher scores, the ones we want to engage with, right? So what are different types of lead scoring data? So there's explicit, which is mean you're basing it maybe on company side, industry segment, job. Do they have a job title? Do we put that in the lead? Maybe their geographic location. It may be based on implicit data like website visits, white paper downloads, emails opened and clicked. That's a lot of marketing. Or social data, the presence of activity, the activities on a social network. So maybe they are tweeting a lot about, sorry, that's not the right word. Xing, is that the right term? Out on social media or Instagram about you, whatever that may be. And that is also something that marketing can track also to help build up that lead score. So some benefits of it, right? If you're not totally sold on it, it increases your sales efficiency and effectiveness. Sorry, I'm having some throat issues here, tongue issues. Give me 1 second. So this is going to focus sales attention on leads that the organization deems most valuable, right? Let's not waste time on the leads that are not going to get us to where we need to be, right? It's also going to increase marketing effectiveness because this is that loop back, right? The ones that are great, these are the ones that work for us in sales, and we like more of these type of leads coming our way. So that's kind of that feedback loop also. It's a tighter marketing and sales alignment, which is great. And it increase in revenue based on we're going to focus on the leads that matter the most to our organization. Okay. So you can do lead scoring. Your method is different for everybody. Oh, that is a good question, Lily. Okay, so I also asked this question. The question is, who in the organization is typically responsible for scoring leads? And what I found out is there's kind of a it's 50-50, right? Some organizations, it is marketing's job, right? Before they even give the lead to the sales team, they qualify it and then it moves forward from that. Some organizations don't use our leads module at all and they go right, let marketing qualify it and it goes right into an opportunity. And then the other half does it. So I'm not sure one way or another. Can I give a definitive answer? I always had the assumption that sales did most of them, but that is kind of not what my research showed. So that's a good question, but I don't know the answer right off my head. Um, I have a question also in chat, and this is kind of back in with the last section, but it's throughout, right? Um, let's say this, and I'm going to say your name, okay? We know that we have messy data. Where should we start? So I would start with your qualification fields, right? So those are the ones that are going to affect your lead routing or scoring or forecasting. Start with those, with cleaning those up first. Then you want to reinforce them in your marketing qualification lead to sales qualification handoff, right? If marketing is handing over a lead and they think it's qualified and you contact them for the first time in sales, how was that interaction, right? So you want to think about those next. From there, you want to run a smooth data hygiene review. So that's something that an admin is probably going to do to improve that um, data messiness little by little or gradually. Sugar dashboards are going to make it easier to track those missing fields and trend movements over time. So that may help with that messy data situation. Okay. All right, so let's talk about some lead scoring methodology. Now, if you're dealing with an ideal customer profile, there's lots of things about an ideal customer that you may want to track, like do we have a job title? Do we have the company size? Do we have their estimated revenue, et cetera, right? Those particular type of fields, which by the way, a lot of that can be coming from our product called Hint that will populate those types of information from its external sourcing of data based on that company name and some other criteria. Okay, so for example, if you are a B2B software company, you're a SaaS CRM vendor, and you are mid-sized business from 100 to, or your customer is 100 to 500 employees, you can set up a scoring system based on the fields called company size, industry, job title, budget, and engagement, right? You score them and then you have a total, right? So a total possible score, let's say is 55. That is a highly qualified ideal customer profile lead, right? You need to make those decisions, right? Whatever that is, you can say, okay, lead scoring above 45, we're going to route immediately to the sales for follow-up. That's something that marketing can do if you're using that kind of criteria. It could be if this is happening in sales, maybe anything out of 45, you can qualify them. Maybe you can say, okay, then these are the next steps that happen in this particular process. Okay. Lamb or spam, I love those names, most often employed by smaller businesses who do not have a clear ideal customer, which is fine. It could be a lot of different types of ideal customer, right? We have a full gamut of folks that we are selling to. The lamb or spam model consists of filtering out low quality leads, right? We don't want to focus on stuff that people aren't interested, right? They only threw their business card in at that conference because they may win an iPad. They didn't do it because they care about what you're selling, right? Let's get those off the board as soon as possible. So LAM stands for looking, able, motivated, believes, and success potential. That's also in your handout, by the way, too. So I'm not going to read those for you, but that's the kind of LAM criteria. It also can be scored. And let's say for this particular one, the possible score of 80 is mean it's ready for sales engagement. Okay. And maybe that means qualified in your organization. Here's the spam qualifications also in the definitions. It's just a different type of model that you can use. And it also can be scored just like the LAMP, which can give you a different total or possible number, whether they fit for your particular organization. Okay, it could be rule-based, right? Based on lead scoring assigned by point values to leads by their firmographics, their behavioral attributes. Points thresholds are set for a lead to be considered a good or bad fit. And Sugar Market does this for us, right? It isn't they, right? It can come up with a score based on criteria that it has in Sugar Market. If you use that or whatever marketing tool marketing uses in your organization to come up with a score too, that's just a different methodology. There's also predictive sales scoring, and this is what we have actually in um, a version of sales. I don't know if it's advanced or which one of the sales products it's in specifically. I know it's not in the lowest one. I'm thinking I'll have to get back with you on that. But we do have predictive lead scoring that will come up to say this is more likely to convert, or this one has a very low percentage of conversion based on data within it. Now, the issue with this, or maybe not the issue, but the criteria, let's say that it needs to have a lot of data in order to make that prediction, right? We have lead prediction and we also have opportunity predictions dashlets on the record view and on the yeah, it's on the record view, sorry. So we can have a lead conversion prediction and then even what that criteria may be, right? What it may be based on with the data that's inside of it. So you have to have a certain threshold or prerequisites in order for it to work, because that's how AI works anyway. It has to have a lot of data in order for for it to come with. It has to have a lot of lead conversion data so that you'll know when you're going to get to closer and closer to the score that you need in order for it to be converted. Okay, so here's some fields and areas where a lot of folks track their lead scoring. So data fields like the leads role, and that is a field I created, this field right here. Let me put my annotation, excuse me, arrow here, this field here, okay? And it's just a drop down role. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. What their budget is, that may be a criteria. What pain points are they experiencing? What is their market score? Or maybe coming over from Sugar Market, maybe it's your lead score that you are calculating with a calculated field. Also, it may be done by, someone said this before, activities. So what activities are happened on this particular timeline? Now, they are here, but they're also down here in the subpanels too. But this is a quick view of all the things in a list for that particular lead. Like you can just scroll down and see all the activities, calls, meetings, notes, tasks, emails, whatever they are attached to a particular lead, however you may be scoring them within your system. So real quick, I'm going to go into Sugar real quick and show you a lead record. Doesn't matter which one here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit because sometimes this is kind of tiny on my big monitor. Okay, so company, this is just what I came up with. You can call them whatever you want. Primary decision maker, business decision maker, etc., all the way down to they're just other. They don't fit into any one of these other criteria. You may do that differently, but that's just an example of a primary decision sorry, that's an example of a lead role. What is the role of this particular person that's going to be dealing with this particular sales deal in the future? What's their budget? How much money are they going to spend? This is just a currency field. And that's added. That's not out of the box field. Company size, this is an out of the box field. So they have 150,000 people. Okay. What pain points are they experiencing? Also, I added this in financial, productivity, process, support, other. What areas are they having problems with? Put them into categories for your organization. That will help with making some decisions and also help with lead scoring too. It could possibly. And industry. The industry, is it filled in? Do they have an email address? What's their lead score? Is this being calculated? Now, let me show you something. I'm going to click edit. So you see how this lead score field is grayed out? That means that I made it a calculated field, okay? I have a calculation based on that particular field. I'm going to show you a little behind the scenes real quick. Checking time, we're good. Admin. I'm going to go down to Studio real quick. Inside of leads, fields, and I want to see lead score. So this is the one out of the box. I just marked that do not use because I can't delete a standard field. So I created my own and I called it, is that the one? Yeah, the integer one. So I have it based on this formula. Okay. And you can do it off of any, right? It's looking at company size. It's looking at the industry field. So it's either technology or manufacturing. I want a budget over 50,000. I want them to be a primary decision maker or a technical decision maker. And I'm going to give them a score for each one of those 25, 20, 20, and 50. Now I'm going to, just in case y'all want it, just to freebie here, no charge. I'm going to copy that into chat. If you like that particular calculated field, you can change the fields, change the values, but that's a good example of a calculation. So based on particular criteria, it's going to change that particular field. So let me get out of this real quick. Go back to the lead. And you can see each lead. So if I clicked on Eric, and then I go to the next one. So here's the lead score for, oh, sorry, it's reloading. Not sure what happened there. I think I clicked the link. So there's the lead score. And then I go to the next record, different person. I think most of these are the same because they have the same values. It's going to recalculate, right? Don't look at my dummy data, but each one of them, it's going to recalculate that value. Okay. Okay. So let's talk now, since we've talked about data and definitions, let's talk now about checklists and scorecards. So we need to have a consistent checklist, a sales checklist to ensure that all of your team members, that means across sales, follow the same qualification steps before passing it over to the lead over from marketing and sales or from a unqualified lead to a qualified lead. You need to have consistent scoring. So together they're going to reduce subjectivity. A lot of people are like, well, we're not exactly sure what our conversion rate is because different people do it different ways. This is going to make this a little more solid based on a standard. Improve your marketing qualified leads and your sales qualified lead conversion. Align your SDRs and your account executives so that they have the same terminology, they're doing the same actions at a certain point within this cycle, and it ensures high quality leads reach sales, right? So I'm going to go through how to create a lead checklist or score list. I'm not going to read everything to you, so it's very high level. Kind of step one. First, you need to define your core areas, and they must be consistent. Number two, you need to turn each bucket into a checklist, right? Each individual category into a particular checklist that needs to be answered, right? Is this true? Is this true? It's in the target industry. Is it in the correct role, et cetera? Does it have the right size? And then you're going to add weights to that score, right? Each one of those criteria are going to have either a number, a percentage, whatever it may be, to come up with a score for your scorecard. Number four, you need to define score interpretation. What does 80 mean? What does 90 mean? What does 45 mean? What are in that range that you just weighted? What are each of those criteria? Okay. Number five, you need to rank data completion standards. I'm going to show you a calculation I did for data completion also, and you can run a report on it, which I'll also show you in a little bit. Okay. And number six, make it repeatable across all the reps. This needs to be the standard we're going to use from now on. This is what our qualification is, and we're going to have more consistency. And for leadership, you can have a better picture of what is actually out there and what's actually in the pipeline. Yes. Okay. If you can't copy that um, uh, calculated field, Lily's telling me that she couldn't do it in Zoom. I will send that to you afterwards too. Okay. I need to write myself a little note. Just one second. Send um, calculated value formula. Thank you. If I don't write it down, I will not remember. Okay. So those are the 6 steps for creating a lead checklist. Those are very high level. You got the recording. And lots of information about that are at the bottom also, and examples. You don't have to use the examples I use. That's just something that I came up with for is to show or define each one of these. Okay. Um, I think this one is just all of them. I don't know why I repeated that. Okay. While we're going through each one of these again. Sorry. Let me just skip ahead. Here we go. Oh, while I'm here, let me just show you the completion score. So I have a completion score field. If I click to edit, you see how that's a calculated field down here too. This one. This is how I calculated this field. Okay. And this is just based on certain criteria that I did. So we'll go down to leads again, fields, and I'll look for the completion. You can call it whatever you want. It just means that the data is complete enough in order, how complete is the data in order to create that score that we're doing. So I had it based on, do we have a phone number? Do we have first name, last name, lead score, and an address? That's just the address street field, okay? And I gave each one of them equal value of 1 point a piece. So I'm going to multiply that times 20. You can score that. There's only 5 of them, so 5 times 20 is 100. So that's where I came up with that one. And I'll give that one to you too. That's data completion score. Data completion score, okay? And I will send both of those to you after in my follow-up email too. Okay. All right. So that's where it comes up with this field for completion, depending on whatever criteria it had. So for example, one of the criteria was the first name. So if I took out Donna's first name, for example, not that you would ever do this, but just so you know, the score goes down by 20%. Okay. Or 20 points. However, you're doing percentage or points. So that's a data completion. I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so let's discuss bringing it to life. Okay, oops, went to the wrong screen. Totally closed my PowerPoint. 1 second. Microsoft Office, I love it. Okay, so we're next going to talk about the next section, right? So we are going to discuss bringing it all together in Sugar. So lead creation. After you create a lead, you want to have some kind of automatic scoring fit, whether that is a calculated field or making something to create that score within Sugar BPM, whatever that is, based on how many calls or meetings they've taken, etc. Then you want to have that initial marketing qualification check, right? Is this qualified or not? SDRs can review it and manually qualify it themselves. SDRs can reach out to the actual customer or potential customer, excuse me, or a discovery call. Then there's a handoff to sales if all that's done within marketing, or you could do those within sales and hand off to sales for the sales qualification lead done by maybe an account executive. And then once that's done and qualified, you then can create the opportunity, right, in the qualification process. Now, out of the box, I'm going to say this right now, out of the box, when you do a conversion, opportunity is optional. If you want to make it required, that's something that an admin can do. They can just check a little box, and during the conversion process, opportunity is automatically going to be also created, but it is not a required module or record, excuse me, that it's going to create during the conversion. So if you want to make that little check mark decision, it's very easy within Studio to do. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few things. I've showed you some already, but I do want to show you one other thing, and that is the dashboard. So I created a little dashboard. Like I say, it's little. It's just a little dashboard called lead qualification. And it has all of basically the charts of all the reports that I'm interested in, right? You're going to learn how to do this in one of the videos that you're going to get tomorrow, okay? And it goes through, these are all the reports. This is what they do. If you may like one of them, not the other one, put all of the ones you like into a lead qualification dashboard page. So very quickly, you can see who is creating leads, what's the average score for each person, what's the data completion rate. Like this person, Jim, not so great. He's actually executive. We need to have a discussion with him, right? He doesn't have great data completion. Lead converted by user, how many they have, and you can filter that by month, by day, by year. How many leads were created this week? How many were converted, lost? They were leads that were converted, but we lost them. All kinds of things that you can do with your charts and reports. Now, there is one report and I'm going to go right to the report section, checking time here, that there's actually two, these two right here. Okay, I'm going to just, so two filters I would create in reports are this. I would create a lead that's tagged as a sales or marketing. So that's out of the box. These are reports that we are already given to you with the module of leads, right? Because if you don't put the module of leads, it's going to give you opportunities, potentially accounts, etc., right? So I specifically want all the lead module records, reports. These are technically records here that have a tag of sales and marketing. We did those out of the box, okay? And these are all of them, and I mark them all as favorites. That's just me, so I can access them faster. So if I just want to do my favorite reports, they'll see them, but I may have other ones listed. So that's one that I would do. Another one is you're going to learn in one of the videos how to create, let me take these off, how to create a average lead score by user report. That is going to be a report that you can create on your own, right? It's step by step. The video is going to show you how to do it. I created this data completion one by user. It's fairly simple. After you create the data completion field, score field, after you complete that, then you can score. So you can see, so the admin hand, their average is, 76% complete, right? Charles, he's much better at 96%, right? This is great opportunities for coaching. So you can get with individuals that may not have a great completion. You also may say, oh yeah, we are getting a lot of low scores because we don't have required fields for the fields that we need in order to do the calculation for completion. Like phone number's not required. Um, Lead source isn't required. Well, if you're going to score by those, you may want to make them required so that people will start increasingly fill them in. Now, you can also change the filters over. Maybe you just want to see all the new ones that are created, not the assigned and in process, and filter that report in different ways, but that's basically the criteria for it. Okay, web to lead functionalities is a question. So real quick, I'm looking at time here. You know what? I'm going to answer that in the email afterwards. I got a whole lot to say about web to lead, but I'll give you some links on how to qualify those leads and how do they go from web to lead into the system, et cetera. Okay. So it's a very good question. I'm not brushing you off. I will answer it. Okay. So I'm going to write a note again, right? Web to lead. Okay. Thank you. All right. So hope y'all are staying with me. Okay. So here's another thing, just an extra tip. Okay. So there are tools out there that if you don't want to manually have to go through and clean up your data or make sure that the hygiene is uh, good for all of your data, there are lots of tools that are out there. So Sugar Market, obviously we have some things like that in Sugar Market. You can use websites or forums, scheduling tools, but if you go out to our Sugar Market place, which is where we have a lot of extras that you can add into Sugar that are specific for specifically talking about an integration to do data hygiene or any other integration tools for lead qualification that can help with that. You may want to check out Sugar Market. Just put SugarCRM Marketplace in Google and it will be the first one that comes up at the top. Okay. Bookmark that for later too. You may want to on that. This is a lot of words. So just you look at the high level, right? You may also want to have some meetings with your sales team, right? And it may be just as simple as not a meeting, but I'm going to shoot you a real quick video to say, just takes like 2 minutes to say, hey, check these things out. This is our daily standing. This is the pipeline. This is our activity review report. So whether you're going to have a daily report, a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly, annually, cross-functionally between sales and marketing, for that lead qualification, and even a leadership level cadence. This is just an example for a weekly executive revenue meeting. Okay. Just some tips that you may want to start incorporating in your calendar for keeping data in Sugar Complete, but also so that you can get to lead qualifying based on scores and complete pipelines, data with that's in certain fields or not in certain fields. So I've talked about these two reports at the top. These are the ones that this one is created, showing you how to create this one in an email afterwards. This one I just showed you about data completion, and I'll send you those calculated fields too. These are the out-of-the-box reports, right? You don't have to do anything except look at them and obviously have the data in Sugar to populate the fields. But any of those you can do a save as, right? Maybe the leads created by month, you want to see that by quarter. You can save as, duplicate that report, change the filter instead of for the or group by instead of by the month, do it quarterly and put a new name on it. Okay. Leads created by user by quarter. Fine. That's a good report. This one, for those of you that do lead qualifications by activities, this report's called leads with no calls, meetings, tasks, or emails. Those have not been touched, right? Or that people just aren't putting them into Sugar. So what's an incentive for that? Okay. Here is a tip. If you say your data completion rate is below 50, then you may not get compensated for that qualification of a lead, right? So it's just one example, but they'll be more likely to do it if you have it connected back to that. So that's another example for that one. So I've answered a lot of questions that we've had in chat already, but I want to answer a few more that I want to deal with. So one of them was about how do you enforce the use of filling in all the fields and checklist usage. So you can build it right into Sugar, right? Use those required fields, use drop down so you have specific values. So hold on, let me get to the right slide here. Okay, and we'll go back to the key points in a second. Drop downs, guided processes, so reps can complete qualifications as part of doing their normal work, right? They may not even know that you're doing what you're doing in the background, but if you make those things very specific, those particular fields that they need to complete, then your scoring will be better, your checklist will be better, et cetera, scorecard. Not as a separate task. Like we don't want them to get into that record more times than they need to, make it as efficient as possible. Let me see here. Okay, here's another one about reps accountability. I create a scorecard based on KPIs such as qualification completeness scores. So reps don't need to get penalized for outcomes they can't control, right? But they are accountable for data accuracy, completion, and following the checklist. Those are things that they need to, don't have it go against them, but make that this is what you need in order to get this particular score, and these particular scores equal this for you. Okay. I think that is most of the questions. So I just want to go to the takeaways. So we talked about why qualifying a lead. So it's make or break, right? What does good look like? How Sugar operationalizes it, and how to sustain success with matrix and managing rhythms within your particular sales and marketing team. Okay. So I'm going to put all these links to these things in your follow-up email. So don't freak out that you're not going to get them. If you registered or came to this session, you will get an email from me. Give me an hour to get everything ready, right? Because I have some follow-up I have to do afterwards too. But it's a link to SugarU for there's some lead training in there. Lots and lots of it. Most of it is free. There's help articles specifically for leads. There's lots of stuff in Sugar Club. Just do a search by lead qualification or leads in Sugar Club, and you'll just get a mega list of all that stuff. Next week's session is From Chaos to Clarity, Opportunity Management That Works. The first week in January, can you believe it's already going to be 2026? The Sales Pulse, Managing Through Activities. Okay. And there are lots of ways to do that. We'll discuss those two things in those weeks, and I'll give you the links to register if you haven't done so already. Okay. All right. Oh my goodness, right on time. How great is that? So sorry if I talk too fast. You can always go back to the recording if you need to. It's a lot of information. So expect an email from me in let's say the next 30 minutes that has all the information that we're going to cover that we covered today, the slides, the recording. The recording may take a little bit longer, so that's the only thing I'll probably hung up on. All of the resources and the calculated fields and the question about web to lead form. Okay. You all have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in next week's session also. Okay. Have a good one. Bye-bye.